For 26 years, I thought love was something you earned through silence. My parents were married for 3 decades, and in all that time, I never once heard my father tell my mother that he loved her. Not once. He showed up every day. He paid the bills. He sat at the same table for dinner every night, but the words never came. My mother stopped asking after a while. I think she just accepted that this was what marriage looked like. And so that became my blueprint too. I grew up believing that love was quiet, that it was something you proved through duty, not through tenderness. I carried that belief into every relationship I ever had. And it broke every single one of them. It took a stranger. A man I met exactly once on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. To show me how wrong I had been, I was 26 years old, sitting in a hospital waiting room because my grandmother had fallen and broken her hip. The waiting room was the kind of place that smells like antiseptic and old coffee, with those stiff blue chairs bolted to the floor in rows. I had been there for almost 4 hours, scrolling through my phone, half listening for a nurse to call my name, when an elderly man sat down 2 seats away from me. He must have been in his late 70s. He had a thin cardigan buttoned all the way up, even though the room was warm, and he was holding a small paper bag in his lap like it was something precious. I didn't think much of him at first. People come and go in waiting rooms, but every 20 minutes or so, he would stand up, walk to the nurse's station, ask a quiet question, and then sit back down. He did this maybe 6 times over the 2 hours I sat near him. Eventually, out of boredom more than curiosity, I asked him if everything was okay. He smiled at me, the kind of smile that had clearly been worn soft by decades of practice, and told me his wife was in surgery. She had been having heart problems for the last few years, and today she was getting a procedure that the doctors said was routine. But nothing about watching your wife go into an operating room feels routine, he said. He told me they had been married for 51 years. I asked him, mostly to make conversation, what the secret was. 51 years is a long time. I expected him to say something generic, something about compromise or patience, the kind of answer you see printed on a greeting card. Instead, he opened the paper bag in his lap. Inside were 2 sandwiches, wrapped in wax paper, cut diagonally. He told me that every single day for 51 years, he had made his wife a sandwich exactly like this one, cut the same way, because on their 3rd date, she had mentioned offhand that she liked when sandwiches were cut diagonally instead of straight across. She said it made them taste better, which of course made no sense, but he never forgot it. He said he had made her thousands of sandwiches since then, through 2 kids, through job losses, through her illness, through every ordinary and terrible day of their life together. And he had never once cut one straight across. I remember laughing a little. Not because it was funny, but because I didn't understand yet. I asked him why a sandwich mattered so much. And he looked at me, really looked at me, like he could tell I needed to hear the answer more than I realized. He said that love was never in the big declarations. It was never in the words people expected to hear. He said anyone can say the words. He said his own father used to tell his mother he loved her every single day, and yet he cheated on her for 20 years. Words, he said, were the cheapest thing a person could offer. What was expensive, what actually meant something, was memory. It was noticing. It was the diagonal cut on a sandwich that nobody else in the world would think twice about. But that told one specific person, every single day, that they had been truly seen and truly remembered. He said, my father never told my mother he loved her, but I bet he did something for her that nobody else noticed. I bet there was a version of the sandwich in your house too. That sentence stopped me completely. Because there was my father, the man who never said the words, used to wake up 40 minutes before everyone else, every single morning, to warm my mother's car in the winter so she wouldn't have to sit in the cold while it defrosted. He did it for 28 years. I had seen him do it 1,000 times and never once thought of it as anything. I thought it was just a chore he did. I never once connected it to love, because I had been taught somewhere along the way that love was supposed to sound a certain way, that it needed to be spoken to be real. Sitting in that waiting room, I started to cry, and I wasn't even fully sure why. The old man didn't ask me to explain. He just nodded, like he already understood, and handed me one of the 2 sandwiches from the paper bag, the one he had cut for himself, and told me his wife wouldn't mind sharing. About 40 minutes later, a nurse came out and told him the surgery had gone well. He stood up so fast he nearly knocked over his chair, and before he walked back to see her, he turned to me one last time and said something I have never forgotten. He said, "Don't wait for someone to say the words. Learn to read the sandwich. Everyone has one." Some people just show love in a language you were never taught to speak. I never saw him again. I don't know his name. I don't know if his wife recovered fully or how many more sandwiches he made after that day. But that conversation changed the way I looked at my entire childhood. I went home that week and thought about every single thing my father had ever done without saying a word. The car he warmed up every winter morning. The way he always let my mother pick the radio station, even though he hated her music. The way he checked twice that the front door was locked before bed, every single night, without fail. Because she once mentioned he felt safer when he did. None of it had ever looked like love to me, because I was waiting for a sentence that was never going to come. I had spent years being angry at my father for something he had actually been giving me my whole life, just in a language I had never learned to read. It also changed how I showed up in my own relationships. I used to think love had to be declared to be valid. And when partners showed me love in quieter ways, I dismissed it. I doubted it. I kept asking for something they didn't know how to give, the same way my mother must have felt for 30 years. After that day in the waiting room, I started paying attention differently. I started noticing the small, repeated, and glamorous things people did for me. The friend who always saved me the last piece of something. The partner who remembered exactly how I liked my coffee without ever being told twice. I stopped needing the words so badly because I finally understood that the words were never the whole story. I think about that old man often, more than almost anyone else I've ever met for just 2 hours of my life. A stranger, someone whose name I never even learned, taught me something in one conversation that 26 years in my parents' house never fully explained to me. Not because my parents didn't love each other or love me. They did deeply, in the only language they knew how to speak. I just hadn't learned to listen for it yet. Now, when I think about love, I don't think about grand gestures or perfect sentences. I think about diagonal sandwiches and warm car seats on cold mornings. I think about the quiet, repeated, unnoticed things people do for us year after year without ever asking for credit. That's where real love actually lives. Not in the words we wait to hear, but in the small things we almost forgot to notice.